Let us welcome the first finalist team of the HSBC HKU Asia Pacific Business Case Competition Grand Final, the team from Thammasat University, Thailand.
Imagine for a moment what's the most difficult task of your daily life. Is it cracking a difficult case, or is it presenting to a large group of audience? For me, it's about selecting the right outfit for the day. Now, it varies quite a lot, you see. When I hang out with my friends, I wear jeans with t-shirt. When I go out with my girlfriend, I usually wear a very nice shirt. And when I present for case solutions, I usually wear a suit. So the key is to select the right outfit for the right occasion. Just like UNIQLO today, as it expands to several different countries around the world, it needs to be able to select the right outfit for the right occasion.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ravisra. This is Pakapon, Siwabong, Pumrat, and together we're from Thammasat University. As consultant, our goal today is to help UNIQLO move forward in the right strategic direction. So, looking at where we are today and where we want to be. Currently, your company is a fast fashion retailer whom is seeking to grow. Currently, you have over 1,500 stores and over $15 billion in revenue. However, we envision a better tomorrow where your company will become a global fast fashion retailer whom has a strong supply chain. You will also have over 2,600 stores as well as over $31 billion in revenue. And to bridge this gap, we present to you our two strategies of dress it up and strike a pose. Our dress it up strategy will focus on enhancing the upstream supply chain through the planning and production stage of the company. Our strike a pose strategy will focus on improving the downstream supply chain through omni-channel strategy. But first, let's take a step back and look at the analysis that forms our strategy. So looking at the current supply chain of the company, we see that it could be divided into three different stages. Of first, the planning, second, the production, and third, the sales. In the planning stage, the company's R&D and procurement departments designs and select fabrics for the company. This is then sent to the production department and manufactured to the factories of the company. After the goods are manufactured, they're then sent to the main warehouse of UNIQLO before it is distributed and sold to customers through three channels, which are online, local stores, and international stores. So we see that with the strong supply chain, it allows the company to have three core competencies. First, it has a very low production cost. Secondly, it has a short time to market. And third, it has a high product quality. And with this all together, it translates to an affordable price for the customers, a fast fashion trend, as well as a quality product which provides the true value to money product to the consumers. With these core competencies, it has allowed our company to be successful throughout time. We see that we were successfully incorporated in 1984. Then we are able to introduce our SPA model. Looking further, we were then able to expand into several Asian countries. And in 2015, we now become the fourth largest player in the fast fashion retail market. Looking forward, we see that there are several opportunities lying out there for UNIQLO, including expanding into markets such as USA and Europe. However, to do so, the company must have a strong supply chain that is no longer regional, but will become a global supply chain. So the key question of our presentation today becomes, how can UNIQLO improve its upstream supply chain, as well as how can UNIQLO improve its downstream supply chain to support this growth. With this, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you our two strategies of dress it up and strike a pose.
Now, Dress It Up is a strategy that aims together in improving the upstreams of your supply chain. So when we take a step further, we see that within the upstreams, there are two key stages we want to further enhance: the planning stage and the production stage. So let's identify the key challenges as well as the key questions we want to address in our first strategy today. In terms of the planning stage, the key challenge is in terms of localizations in countries like USA and in Europe. So the key questions is how do we further localize our supply chain? In terms of the production stage, we see that the key challenges lies in coping with our expansion plan. In fact, our expansion plan are very aggressive, and therefore the key questions is in terms of how do we support the capacity going forward. With these two key questions in mind, let's take a look in terms of our strategy. First, looking at the planning stage, we would like to do two things under the planning stage. First, we would like to further localize our supply chain. And second, we would like to further enhance the Takumi system. Looking first at the localization. The objective for this would be such that we'll be able to cater to the personal localized need of people in countries like USA and in Europe. So we would like to do two things to further enhance the localization. First, we would like to partner with key universities relating to the fashion design. For example, the New York fashion design. Secondly, we would like to further set up a research and development center in countries like USA and in Europe. With these localization strategies, we'll be able to cater our offerings both in terms of the sizes and in terms of the preference. So imagine, for example, that the sizes in Asians, for example, we have M size. When it comes to the United States, that becomes S size. So we need to be able to localize our offerings. Also in terms of preference, people in Asian countries may like a more brighter colors, but people in the United States may like a more plain color. So that's in terms of localization. Now in terms of Takumi systems, currently UNIQLO implemented its Takumi systems only in the production stage to be able to maximize efficiency when it comes to partnering with our partner factories. What we would like to do is also to introduce the Takumi systems in the planning stage such that we can further improve the efficiency of the planning stage itself. So the key actions we would like to do is to first introduce the technicians that will help involved in the planning stage as well. The key impacts of this will be such that we'll be able to ensure that the planning stage are much more efficient. So that is how we're looking to further enhance the planning stage. Now we take a look at how we're looking to further enhance the production stage. To further enhance the production stage, the key challenges is in terms of how do we cope with the aggressive growth expansion plan that we have. So the key actions we would like to do is to further open factories in countries that we have already that we already have presence in. So we have looked at many case studies in terms of successful fashion brands, and when they export to countries like the United States, they didn't simply move the factories there. This is because costs are much more justified in countries like China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. And we want to keep that. So what we would like to do is to further open up factories that will help further support the projected 750 stores increase that we are looking to propose today. So in order to carry out this process, we believe that it comes down to three key steps. First is to be able to establish contracts and be able to evaluate in terms of the capacities we need in order to support our new stores opening. Second is in terms of collaborating with stores as well as production hubs. And finally, is in terms of exporting these clothes into the new location. So what have we done to our first strategies of Dress It Up? Through the planning stage, the question is in terms of localizations. And with that, we presented you with a partner with universities to further localize your product offerings. in terms of the production stage, what we would like to do is to come up with the ways that will help you cope with the aggressive expansion plan that you have. So that was our first strategies in terms of dress it up that looks to address the upstream of your supply chain. Now we take a look at the second strategies that will address the downstream.
So for our second strategy of strike a pose, now that we have dressed things up through an upstream production supply chain, it's time for us to dress it up to the local consumers and to show that we can improve a downstream supply chain. So taking a look at the current situation, we have identified 3 key challenges we have to consider. First being the challenge we found in the offline store. Second, move forward to the online store. And lastly, how can we best integrate these channels together to maximize the synergies from the omni-channel strategy? And with that key challenges in mind, let's take a look first at how we plan to expand the physical stores. So as you can see here, we have come up with a number of physical stores we plan to expand in not only China, but also in the United States. And overall, in the year 2020, we'll be able to open 1,110 stores in both countries. We also take a step further to identify the store format we'll be using, as well as the execution plan. Now, as for the store format, we do recognize that in expanding in such a rapid growth, it is very important that you use a scalable method. And this is why we recommend the company to implement a franchising model in expanding to these 2 countries. This is because franchising is very scalable for your business and has already been successfully implemented in other countries by UNIQLO. Moving forward, with regards to the execution, once we have established and opened up new physical store, we have to also consider regarding the warehouses we will be stocking the inventory, as well as the logistics we'll be using. So the warehouse center will be established by UNIQLO at these 2 new countries, for example, in the United States, whereby we might be able to open warehouse center in the West Coast as well as the East Coast to reap the synergy and facilitate the logistic process. We also take a step further to implement the QC control within the United States before distributing to the physical stores. And that is how we plan to expand our physical store. Let's take a step forward, whereby we take a look at the online store we plan to use to further maximize the sales exposure. Now, in terms of expanding through the online channel, there are 2 ways you can do. First, you can leverage on your own website platform, which is uniqlo.usa.com, or you can use a third-party provider. And according to our extensive analysis, we believe the answer lies in not just one, but also these 2 channels concurrently by using these third-party platform as a complementary channel to existing UNIQLO websites. So taking a look here, we have identified 3 things. First of all, when to use this platform, or specifically with regards to what offering we plan to use. Second, the details of this strategy, as well as the implementation plan. So the key differences with regards to the detailed offering will be the fact that with our own store, we are able to launch new collection as well as a full range of offering. Whereby on the third-party platform, for example, Amazon, you have to select only the product that is high selling, top selling value that can best reach out to these consumers and incentivize them to buy your product. In terms of the implementation, with regards to the logistic, we believe, as for our own channel, which is uniqlo.usa, we have to leverage on our established warehouse center to distribute this product across the country. Whereby, as for the online channel, we'll be leveraging on that logistics as well as the distribution network. And that is where we plan to implement an online platform. Lastly, we take a step forward to craft the strategy for the omni-channel, which is to reap the synergy between both offline and online channel. There are 3 key ways we can do this. First being, there are 3 functions we have identified, which is first to check the availability of the stock within the store and to further promote sales connectivity across all stores in the US. Second, to promote an in-store pickup or as well as the proximity marketing. These overall are the tactics that you can use to implement a fully omni-channel strategy to best reap the synergies from these 2 channels. So what have we done in this strategy? There are 3 things. First of all, we have recommended the company to establish and expand through physical store expansion in both US and China market. Second, we have also recommended your company to open not only your own UNIQLO website, but also leverage on third-party platform, for example, Amazon, to use as a complementary channel. Lastly, we also craft the strategy to promote an omni-channel strategy to best maximize the synergies between the two channels. So the key takeaway here is rather simple. By improving the downstream supply chain and using the omni-channel strategy, UNIQLO will successfully penetrate the global market.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's our two strategies of dress it up and strike the pose. So for dress it up is where we want to improve the value chain of our company. And for strike the pose is where we want to set our food moving forward sustainably. So now, with each two of these key strategies successfully implemented, we will be able to achieve three key impacts as follows. First, we'll be able to increase more stores, reaching more than 10,000 stores, reaching more than 1,000 stores in year 2020. Second, we'll be able to increase the revenue, reaching $31 billion by year 2020. And lastly, we'll be able to shift our revenue contribution coming from the USA and China, considered to be around 12.5%. So looking further into the term of the revenue forecast, we can see that if you're doing nothing, the expected revenue forecast will be $27.5 billion in the next 5 years. But with our strategies being implemented, we expected the total revenue to reach $31 billion with the incremental revenue of around $4 billion. And with this is our key assumptions of sales per stores estimated to be around $5 million, and we'll be able to establish 950 stores in China as well as around 180 stores in USA in the next 5 years. Taking a step further, looking at the cost estimation, the total cost is estimated to be around $557 million, coming from the total investment of $505 million and another $52 million from the total expense. And this cost will be funded by internally generated fund, short-term debt, as long as long-term debt. And to ensure the success of our strategies, we have constructed an implementation timeline, which for the dress-up strategy, the plan adjustment should begin right away, followed by the development of Takuni team, as well as the efficiency evaluation. And for the second strategy of strike the post, the logistic establishment should begin at the beginning of year 2016. And we hope to set up the stores as well as establish it, followed by consequence as follows. And we have taken a step further to establish the key metrics to ensure the performance of our strategy, which for the first strategy, the key metrics is the revenue expected. And we hope that we'll be able to have around 22 billion revenues in the year 2017 and 18. And for the second strategy, the key metric will be the number of stores open. And we hope that in the year 2017, we'll have more than 1,000 stores reached by then. And as we know, as no strategy is perfect, therefore we have constructed a risk and a mitigation plan. We have prioritized our risk based on the severity of risk as well as the probability of occurrence, which in this case, the greatest risk present to be the restructuring of the complication of the restructuring. And this could be mitigated by work closer with the production team as well as implementing it phase by phase. And that's our conclusion of our financial timeline as well as the risk assessment.
So what have we done today? So currently, your company is a regional fast fashion retailer whom is seeking to grow. You currently have 1,550 stores and $15 billion in revenue. However, we envision a better tomorrow where your company will become a truly global fast fashion retailer who will have a strong supply chain and maintain growth. You will have over 2,680 stores as well as over $31 billion in total revenue. And to bridge this gap, that's where our two strategies of dress it up and strike a pose comes in. Our dress it up strategy focuses on improving the upstream supply chain through the planning and production stages. A strike a pose strategy focuses on improving the downstream supply chain through the omni-channel strategies. With this, Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that UNIQLO will be able to move forward in the right strategic direction and become a true leader in the fast fashion retail market. Thank you. And now the floor is open for Q&A.
Looks like I've been chosen to start to open the batting. Yeah. Very good presentation. Congratulations. Great energy. I like your clarity. I'm impressed you can speak English better than I can. You talked a lot about the number of stores and the revenue. And you did mention the website and digital, but I wonder why you didn't focus more on PBT. So revenue net of costs, a little bit more than just revenue. And I think you may have focused a little bit too much on the stores, even though the bricks and mortar, even though you talked about the various downstream distribution channels.
So for what we have done is that we want to focus on the number of stores open because we've been mentioned in the case that it's the goal that have been set up by the UNIQLO company, that they want to open another 1,000 stores in China, as well as around 200 stores in US in the next 5 years. That's why we want to cater our strategies and try to focus more on the brick and mortar stores.
Sorry, I think just to add in terms of why is it very important that we also tap in terms of the number of stores. We believe that in going forward for UNIQLO, a lot of things can be simulated on the online space. The feeling of getting to shop in the physical stores, the feeling that you get to touch the fabric cannot be simulated on the online space. And ultimately, that's why we give a lot of importance in terms of opening the number of stores.
And just in addition to that, we also have a case study regarding H&M in Scandinavian countries, whereby initially, although it focuses its expansion on e-commerce platform, at the end of the day, most of the sales are still being driven from the physical store. And this is the primary reason why we believe we have to focus on first, expand the physical store, and second, using the online channel as a complementary channel.
Very good presentation, and as Gordon said, great energy, vitality, and and good teamwork. I do have some questions or comments. I think in reading the case, when you have repeatedly labeled UNIQLO as fast fashion, well, it's not H&M, it's not Zara or Inditex. It is fast retailing. There's a big difference here. You look at the merchandise. It's very standard. They say good quality, low price. That's their DNA. So I think you lump it together with H&M and Zara. It's a different business model, frankly speaking. And I think when you say expand into US, I think you did the right thing in saying, what do US customers want to buy? Do they want to, they don't really know the brand. And are they going to be similar to the consumers in Asia, in Japan first and foremost, and in China, Hong Kong, and elsewhere, to go in for good quality merchandise, produced at a low cost? That's their value. But basically, it is limited number. You should have picked that up. Limited number of styles and colors, and it's not quick turn. So I think that's one thing you must keep in mind. I think the second thing is you should have talked more about data analytics. Data analytics. Because in this competitive world of retail distribution, it is a matter of what sells. And you see, in Zara's case, whatever new stuff, and they turn the merchandise every 4 weeks, right? And whatever sells, they can replenish quickly. In UNIQLO's case, they don't have a lot of new stuff, but whatever sells fast, they want to be able to move it from other stores where they have the inventory. So it's low inventory, quick replenishment. So and then it's based on data analytics. And I think the third comment I would make is the changes in the distribution model. I mean, U.S. brands are dying. U.S. retailers, brick and mortar, the malls are empty. So your strategy of recommending so many new doors is very risky. Online is taking more and more market share. And if you keep on putting money in stores, you are going to be over-leveraged, you will have supply chain challenges, and you're going to have low margin, low return. So those are my comments.
Please allow me to address your second concern first. With regards to, first of all, the data analytics. As you can see here, as part of our localization strategy, we'll also be leveraging on the data mining because we do recognize that American consumers are now browsing through online several e-commerce platforms. And this is where we believe that is a low-hanging fruit, which is you can reap on. Basically, you can gather these insights, analyze, and come up with a product that can suit their needs.
Now, I think in terms of, once again, why do we put so much emphasis on the physical store itself? I think we would like to further illustrate the fact that a lot of experiences that can be simulated only through the physical stores. For example, the fact that you get to shop with your friends, the fact that you get to touch the fabrics, the fact that you get a sense of being in a society, get to shop with one another. I think those things can be simulated to the online space. And that's why the strategies we're proposing today is not one of the other. We're proposing that you go through an omni-channel. In other words, focusing on both the physical stores and the online stores and do that concurrently. But we do understand your concern that in the future going forward, there might be more emphasis in terms of the online platform. And ultimately, that's why we also have the second prong of our strategies in terms of emphasizing on the online channel.
Please allow me to add on to my colleague. So if you look at the number of store growths here, which we have conducted, we see that most of the stores most of the brick and mortar stores we will be opening will be mainly in China, since we see that the online trend in China is still growing and online shopping for fashion clothes has not yet been successfully launched in China. However, in the United States, we're growing the number of stores there, however, to only around 170 in 5 years, which we believe is a very sustainable, which is a complementary number for the online channel, since we believe that certain stores still have to be open to allow customers to actually see the product. However, in the United States, we will be leveraging a lot more on the online channels.
Yes, again, I agree with my wholeheartedly with my fellow judges. Very clear, logical flow to the presentation. I think one sort of comment to make is that in order to reinforce your recommendation would be to look at some of the alternatives out there and perhaps question, this is a company trying to go globally in a big way. For example, is the sourcing model appropriate? It's very Asian-centric. We live in a world where everybody's buying stuff on demand, same-day delivery, and not necessarily in certain market segments as conscious about cost, and we have ethical considerations there as well. So, as the board of the company, can you advise me whether or not my sourcing strategy is appropriate, or should we consider something different, closer to the consumer endpoint?
So please allow me to explain the supply chain of your company, UNIQLO, compared to H&M and Zara. So currently, what we see Zara doing is they had integrated all their supply chains. However, for H&M, they have been outsourcing. Now for us, UNIQLO, we're implementing both of the strategies, integrating some of the production ourselves and outsourcing some of the production. We see that doing both of these strategies, it provides more advantages, since first, we will be able to control costs. However, we will also still be able to control the quality of our product, since we're using both outsourcing as well as integrating part of the suppliers into our system.
And just to add on to that, with regards to why we choose to source mainly in Asia, whereby we are not selling into the United States and Europe, we believe that we have several case studies of many of the US brands or other brands that try to sell in the States. For example, Abercrombie and Fitch, Hollister, or other brands. When we take a look at that tag, we believe that most of them are still manufactured in Asia. And this is given because it enjoys a much lower cost advantage comparing to manufacture within the States or any neighboring countries. And this is the reason, first, why we decide to still expanding the manufacturing base within Asia. However, looking forward with regards to same-day delivery or just-in-time method, we believe that that is the reason why we also take a step further to establish a warehouse center in the States. And this is where you'll be able to stock the product within that center. And in addition, taking a look in terms of the nature of the clothes of UNIQLO itself, it's pretty different from H&M or Zara, where it's more fashion, where it's more cutting edge and more fast fashion. It's more in terms of classic designs. It's more in terms of everyday wear. So we believe that the degree of variation might not be high as comparing to that brands. So this is the reason why we believe that establishing a warehouse to stock this product in the US will still work moving forward.
Let me just ask one other question. I wasn't clear. You've got this very expensive store build-out. In the US. Once the person gets to the store and picks up their clothes, what else are you going to do with them whilst they're there?
Can you please repeat the
Sorry,
last part?
you had, in terms of your development of the key part of the store build-out was to get people to order offline and then go and pick up the goods in the store. Is that all they're doing, or are you intending to do something else with them whilst they're there to derive some form of value?
I think there's definitely a lot more we would like to do to further enhance the interaction between offline and online. For example, in terms of, let's talk about the online to the offline. One of the things we would like to implement is in terms of proximity marketing. So for example, when consumers walk near the stores, a message would pops up in their phone that would present them with some sort of discount that would invite them to the physical stores. Now, once they purchase a product, what we would also like to do is to bring them to the online channel where, for example, they can explore much more categories of product across different stores located in different locations. In that sense, ultimately what we're trying to do is to be able to bounce back the customers from offline to online and use those two channels in complement of one another.
I think I'll come back to, of course, the key expansion sort of ambition, US, Europe. So far, UNIQLO's success or penetration is still, very measured. And I think, frankly, it's the competitiveness of the marketplace. Multiple brands, consumers have so much choice. So that's, I think, a key. How are you going to get US consumers to buy UNIQLO as opposed to all the other brands, that actually the case study talks about? Gap was an SPA from the very beginning. But if you look at Gap, it is underperforming so badly. So how can a new entrant take that space and win? So I think that is the key. And so you're asking the board to commit a lot of capital to a very risky, not other, event risk, but business risk, because of consumers' receptivity, whatever the distribution channel. How are you going to get people to want to buy UNIQLO?
Okay, to answer that question, first of all, let's take a step back and understand what are the core competencies that really differentiate UNIQLO from Zara, H&M, or Abercrombie and Fitch in the market. So it's not just about a cheaper price or a variety of offering, but at the same time, what matters the most and really distinguishes the brand is the quality of the cloth. It's more durable, and based on our personal experience and several consumer insights, this is the reason why we believe UNIQLO really shines through comparing to other products, for example, Gap or other Zara, whereby this is the product that has higher quality, as well as the design is more timeless, more about the life wear, and this is why we believe UNIQLO can leverage on to further penetrate into these two markets.
So please allow me to further add on to my colleague. So another core competency we see here is the affordability. So looking at the fleece jacket of UNIQLO compared to the fleece jacket of Gap, we see that it is over 60% lower in terms of cost. So we also see that we provide high quality with a much lower cost. So we believe that this core competency will allow us to compete with brands like Gap.
Now, I think just to add on in terms of the core competencies that my colleagues have just mentioned, one of the unique things that we're proposing through our Dress It Up strategies today is in terms of localization. By partnering with fashion schools, by implementing data mining to be able to gain insights from US customers and then redesigning that back in terms of what they like. In other words, creating localization is what we believe would help win the hearts of the US customers.
Okay. As we all know, we're in increasing, it's a financial related question. Volatile world, the markets, commodity prices, got a very ambitious going global strategy. How would you manage those risks apart from coming to see my friend from HSBC?
Okay, so the greatest risk that we can see is present to be the restructuring of the complication or the restructuring of the plans, and we can leverage by working with the operation management as well as moving tighter with the plan that's being implemented phase by phase.
And just to add on to my colleague, we believe that we also identify other risks. For example, the liquidity risk, which is risk number 4, regarding the capital constraint you may be facing, as well as the risk of recession in the market. And we also identify the mitigation action as follow as well.
So, are we addressing your answer, your question?
Not really, but I mean, we're seeing at times a massive dislocation in the markets and commodity prices, volatility. You're sourcing here in Asia, your big US expansion. So how are you going to manage those dynamics? The financial risk, as I said, because you've got a massive capital investment program here. It doesn't take much for that to go, extremely wrong.
So first, let me address your question. With regards to the potential capital constraint of expanding many physical stores in the US, this is where our store format we would be recommending is not you opening on your own, but rather using a franchising model, which is much more scalable and much more cost-effective comparing to you going alone in the market. And with access of the local insights achieved by those franchisees, we'll be able to successfully penetrate without having to contribute much of the capital into such expansion scheme.
And to add on to my colleague, I think one of the concerns that we might think it's about getting a lower sales from the product since we're like a cloth and wear product. However, for the products that we have, we think it's considered to be more like a necessity product rather than like a fashion. So we believe that with the volatility of the economic recession and the economic crisis, will we get less affected compared to like the other the fashion brand like Zara or Abercrombie and so on.
I'd just like to point out one thing. You talked about the Gap, the fleece, and there's so much more. But you have to differentiate. Gap listed at that price, it doesn't go out the door at that price. That's the US retail model. And mark down, buy one, get one free. UNIQLO is everyday low price. So from that point of view, it's a different business model. So don't be misled. You have to think clearly. Don't just believe everything that the case tells you. You have to think. The other thing is that the design aspect, I mean, look, all the US brands have access and they've been sponsors of FIT and all the design schools. So is UNIQLO going to suddenly become a better merchandiser in the US backyard? You have to think about our own core competence, where we could win. And if you aspire to follow Polo, Tommy, Gap, I think that is going to be a long road to disappointment.
First of all, Dr. John, thank you for your insights. Now, I think one of the things that we strongly believe that UNIQLO are very good at is also in terms of not just the design, because as you've mentioned, several other brands in the US can do that as well. But we believe that it's also about the ability to source special fabric. For example, I think UNIQLO is one of the very few brands that have fabric like the heat tech technology, which we believe are very innovative, and we strongly believe that the US customer would very much enjoy that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time is up.